My husband said he fired his assistant for being incompetent. Then she showed up at our door to return the apartment key he'd given her. I stood frozen in my bathrobe, still holding my morning coffee, staring at the woman I'd heard nothing but complaints about for 2 months. Natalie, right? I said, trying to keep my voice steady. She nodded, looking uncomfortable. I'm sorry to bother you this early. I just wanted to return this before things got awkward. She held out a silver key attached to a keychain I recognized immediately. It was from our honeymoon in Bali, the one my husband claimed he'd lost. My stomach dropped, but I kept my face neutral. Come in for a second, I said, stepping aside. She hesitated. Natalie, please, I think we should talk. Once inside, she wouldn't meet my eyes. How long? I asked quietly. She flinched. 2 years. But it ended 3 weeks ago when he found out I was pregnant. The room tilted. I sat down hard on the couch. He told me you were stealing from the company, I whispered, that you made accounting errors that cost him thousands. She laughed bitterly. I have an MBA from Northwestern and 8 years of experience. I've never made a major error in my life. My hands started shaking. The apartment. The one downtown he said was for client meetings. She nodded. He rented it 6 months after your wedding. Told me you didn't understand him, that you'd trapped him with marriage pressure from your wealthy family. Classic lines. But I believed him because he seemed so genuine. She reached into her purse and pulled out a folder. These are copies of text messages, emails, receipts from restaurants where he told you he was working late. I looked through them, recognizing dates I'd spent alone, dates he'd missed my father's surgery, my promotion dinner, our 3rd anniversary. There were photos too, him kissing her at a cabin I'd never seen, the 2 of them on a beach I'd suggested for our vacation, but he'd said was too expensive. Why are you showing me this? I asked. Because when I told him about the baby, he offered me $15,000 to disappear. Said if I didn't take it, he'd destroy my reputation in the industry and make sure I never worked again. He wrote me a check yesterday. She pulled it out. I haven't cashed it. I don't want his money. I want him to face consequences for once in his life. The front door opened. My husband walked in, stopping dead when he saw us together. His face went white, then red. What the hell is she doing here? He demanded. I stood up slowly. She's returning your key. The one to the apartment you rented for secret meetings. He started stammering. That's not, she's lying. This is. I held up the photos. Save it. I've already called my divorce attorney. He's meeting me at noon. My husband lunged forward, grabbing my arm. You can't do this. Your father will pull his investment from my company. I'll be ruined. I pulled free. That's exactly what's going to happen. Natalie stood. I should go. I turned to her. Wait, do you still have that check? She nodded, confused. Don't cash it. My lawyer will want it as evidence of attempted coercion. My husband's face crumbled. Please, we can work this out. Couples therapy, whatever you want. I'll end all contact with her. Too late, I said coldly. I started walking toward our bedroom, then stopped. Oh, and Natalie? She looked at me nervously. My father owns the largest commercial real estate firm in the Midwest. We're always looking for experienced assistants with integrity. She smiled for the first time. Thank you. As I packed my bags, I heard my phone buzzing nonstop. My husband panicking. But there was another notification. An email from my bank. A wire transfer request from my husband's account to a numbered offshore account. For $340,000. Our entire savings. I screenshot the notification and called my bank immediately. This is Elena Whitmore, account number ending in 8156. I need to freeze all accounts associated with my name right now. The representative tried to explain their procedures. I don't care about procedures. My husband is attempting to steal our joint savings. I'm sending you documentation of fraud right now. I forwarded the email. Can you stop the transfer? There was typing on the other end. The transfer was initiated at 6:15 this morning. It's currently pending verification. We can place a hold, but you'll need to come in person with legal documentation. I'll be there in 20 minutes, I said, already grabbing my keys. Natalie was still standing in the living room, watching my husband pace frantically. He was on his phone, probably calling his own lawyer. I have to go to the bank, I told her. Would you mind coming with me? As a witness? She looked surprised but nodded. Of course. My husband blocked the doorway. You're not going anywhere until we talk about this rationally. I'm your wife, not your prisoner, I said. Move. He didn't budge. Natalie stepped forward. Move, or I'm calling the police and telling them about the threats you made yesterday. About how you said you'd make my miscarriage look like an accident if I didn't take your money and disappear. My blood ran cold. You threatened her, I whispered. He held up his hands. That's not what I said. She's twisting my words. Natalie pulled out her phone. I recorded our conversation. Would you like me to play it for your wife? His face went pale. You can't record someone without their consent. That's illegal. In Illinois, it's a one-party consent state, she said calmly. I looked it up before meeting you yesterday. I can record any conversation I'm part of. Now move, or I'm sending this to every news outlet in Chicago. Your family's business won't survive the scandal. He stepped aside, shaking with rage. You're both going to regret this, he hissed. We drove to the bank in silence. My hands were trembling so badly I could barely grip the steering wheel. How far along are you? I asked finally. 12 weeks. I'm sorry you found out this way. I never wanted to hurt you. I know this sounds hollow, but I didn't know he was married when we started. He wore no ring, had no pictures of you at the office. He said he lived alone. When did you find out? 6 months in. I saw a wedding photo on his desk one day. When I confronted him, he fed me that line about you forcing him into marriage, that your family controlled everything in his life. Like an idiot? I believed him. She wiped her eyes. I should have walked away then. We arrived at the bank. The manager, a stern woman named Patricia, led us into her office. She reviewed the transfer request with a frown. This is highly unusual. The amount is substantial, and it's going to an unregistered overseas account. Has your husband done international transfers before? Never, I said. We kept our finances separate except for the joint savings. He managed his business accounts independently. Patricia nodded. I'm placing an immediate hold on this transaction. However, I need to inform you that your husband came in yesterday morning and added himself as the primary account holder on your joint savings. Legally, he has the right to move these funds. My chest tightened. What? How is that possible without my signature? She pulled up the documentation on her computer. He presented a power of attorney document dated from 3 months ago. It was notarized and appeared legitimate. Except I never signed a power of attorney, I said, my voice rising. That's fraud. Patricia studied the signature. I'll need you to provide samples of your handwriting. If this is indeed forged, we'll involve law enforcement immediately. But until then, my hands are tied. The funds are technically accessible to him. How long before the transfer goes through? I asked desperately. 24 hours. After that, recovering money from offshore accounts becomes nearly impossible. Natalie spoke up. What if she files for divorce and gets a restraining order? Would that freeze the accounts? Patricia considered this. If a judge issues an emergency order, yes. But you'd need to file today and prove immediate financial harm. I was already calling my attorney. Victor answered on the second ring. Elena, I got your message. I'm pulling together the paperwork now. I need you to meet me at the courthouse in 90 minutes. We're filing emergency motions for asset protection and a restraining order. Bring any evidence you have. I have plenty, I assured him. We spent the next hour at a coffee shop while I organized everything Natalie had given me. The photos, the text messages, the receipts. She also transferred me the recording of my husband threatening her. His voice was clear and unmistakable. If you don't take this money and disappear, I'll make sure you lose that baby one way or another. You think you can trap me? I have connections. People who can make problems go away quietly. The audio made me physically ill. This was a man I'd shared a bed with for 3 years. A man I'd trusted with my future. Who is he? I asked Natalie. Really, I mean. I thought I knew him, but clearly I never did. She stirred her tea slowly. When I first started working for him, he was charming, attentive. He'd remember small details about my life, bring me coffee the way I liked it. He seemed genuinely interested in my career goals. We'd work late, and he'd order dinner, and we'd talk about everything. It felt natural when things shifted to something more. She paused. But looking back, I see how calculated it all was. The way he isolated me, made me dependent on him professionally. I couldn't leave the job without leaving him, and he made sure I knew it. Did he ever hurt you? I asked carefully. She shook her head. Not physically, but emotionally. He'd build me up, then tear me down. Tell me I was brilliant one day, incompetent the next. I started doubting everything about myself. When I got pregnant, I thought maybe it would change things, that he'd finally leave you and we'd be a real family. Instead, he turned into someone I didn't recognize. The threat started immediately. He said if I told anyone, he'd destroy me, that he knew people who could make me vanish. I believed him because I'd seen how ruthless he was in business. She met my eyes. I'm terrified of what he'll do now. My phone rang. It was my father. Elena, I just got a very concerning call from your husband. He says you've left him and are making false accusations. He's asking me to intervene. Dad, everything he told you is a lie, I said. He's been having an affair for 2 years. He's threatened his pregnant mistress. And he's currently trying to steal $340,000 from our joint account and hide it offshore. I'm filing for divorce and getting a restraining order today. There was a long silence. Send me everything you have. I'll handle this. His voice was ice cold. Nobody steals from my daughter. At the courthouse, Victor had everything ready. We filed for an emergency divorce petition, a restraining order, and an emergency motion to freeze all marital assets. The judge, a no-nonsense woman in her 60s, reviewed our evidence quickly. This is quite compelling, she said. I'm granting the restraining order effective immediately. Your husband is to have no contact with you or Ms. Natalie Brennan. I'm also freezing all joint accounts pending a full financial audit. She looked at Natalie. Ms. Brennan, I'm recommending you file a police report about these threats. What he said constitutes criminal intimidation and could be interpreted as threats against your unborn child. We left the courthouse with certified copies of the orders. Victor handed me a thick folder. I've also filed a report with the state attorney's office about the forged power of attorney. That's a felony. He's looking at serious jail time if convicted. How long will all this take? I asked. Months, possibly years, he admitted. But with evidence this clear, I'm confident we'll prevail. In the meantime, you need a safe place to stay. Has he contacted you since this morning? I checked my phone. 37 missed calls, dozens of texts. The most recent one read, "You're making the biggest mistake of your life. I'll make sure you lose everything. I'm going to my parents' house," I said. He won't dare show up there. My father has security. Victor nodded approvingly. Good. Document everything. Every call, every text, every attempt at contact. It all supports the restraining order. And Elena, be prepared for this to get ugly. Men like your husband don't accept consequences gracefully. I thanked him and walked out with Natalie. I can drop you at your car, I offered. She hesitated. Can I ask you something? Why are you being kind to me? I'm the other woman. I destroyed your marriage. You didn't destroy anything, I said firmly. He did. You were lied to just like I was. We're both his victims. The drive back to the bank parking lot was quiet. Before she got out, Natalie turned to me. Thank you. For believing me. For not blaming me. Most women wouldn't be this understanding. I'm not most women, I said. And you deserve better than what he did to you. She smiled sadly. So do you. We exchanged phone numbers, and I promised to keep her updated on the legal proceedings. As I drove to my parents' estate, I called my mother. Sweetheart, your father told me what happened, she said, her voice tight with anger. We're preparing the guest house for you. How are you holding up? I'm numb, I admitted. I keep thinking about all the signs I missed. When I arrived, both my parents were waiting. My father pulled me into a tight hug. I've already made some calls, he said. Your husband's company is about to face a very thorough audit. Turns out there are some interesting discrepancies in how he's been reporting expenses. He's been using company funds for personal use, including that apartment. My mother guided me inside. I've called Dr. Morrison. She's coming by tomorrow for a check-in. You've been through a trauma, and I want to make sure you have support. That night, lying in the bed I'd slept in as a teenager, I finally let myself cry. Not for the marriage, which I now realized had been a lie from the start, but for the version of myself who'd been naive enough to believe in him. The next morning, I woke to my phone exploding with notifications. Someone had leaked the story to the press. Chicago businessman accused of fraud, threats against pregnant employee. The article included details from the restraining order, the forged power of attorney, and Natalie's allegations. My husband's company website had crashed from the traffic. I called Victor immediately. Did you leak this? No, he said. But I have a guess. Your father has connections in media. This is strategy. Public pressure will force your husband's hand and make it harder for him to hide assets or threaten anyone. By noon, 3 more news outlets had picked up the story. My husband's business partners started calling for emergency meetings. His largest client issued a statement suspending their contract pending investigation. My phone rang with an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. It was my husband. Please, just listen, he begged. This is all spinning out of control. I made mistakes, huge mistakes, but we can fix this. Come home and we'll figure it out together. There is no home anymore, I said. You made sure of that when you tried to steal our savings and hide it in an offshore account. That was for us, he insisted. I was setting up a backup plan in case the business failed. I was protecting our future. By forging my signature and threatening a pregnant woman, I asked coldly, what kind of future is built on that? He was quiet for a moment. I never meant for Natalie to get hurt. Things just got complicated. I hung up and blocked the number. Dr. Morrison arrived in the afternoon, a kind woman in her 50s who'd been our family therapist for years. She sat with me in the garden while I told her everything. What you're experiencing is grief, she explained. Not just for the marriage, but for the person you thought he was. That's a profound loss. Allow yourself to feel it without judgment. We spent 2 hours talking through my emotions, my fears about the future, my anger at being betrayed so completely. She gave me strategies for managing the anxiety, for setting boundaries, for processing the trauma. When she left, I felt fractionally more stable. That evening, Natalie texted me. The police took my statement today. They're opening a criminal investigation into the threats. My lawyer says I should sue him civilly too, for emotional distress and endangered pregnancy. Do it, I replied. Make him face every consequence. She sent back a simple, thank you. Over the next week, things accelerated rapidly. The state attorney formally charged my husband with forgery and fraud related to the power of attorney. The company's audit revealed he'd embezzled over $600,000 over 2 years, funneling it into personal accounts. His business partners voted unanimously to remove him from the company. He was arrested on a Tuesday morning. I watched the news coverage from my parents' living room. He was let out in handcuffs, still wearing his expensive suit, looking small and defeated. The reporter detailed all the charges: forgery, fraud, embezzlement, criminal intimidation, attempted theft of marital assets. His bail was set at $250,000. His parents posted it within hours. My mother sat beside me, holding my hand. How are you feeling? She asked. Vindicated, I said, and sad, both at once. That night, I got a call from my husband's mother. Elena, please, she sobbed. You know my son. He's not a criminal. He made some poor choices, but this is destroying him. Does he deserve to lose everything? Yes, I said simply. He does. What about our family? She pleaded. We've been nothing but good to you. How can you do this to us? Your son forged my signature, I said evenly. He tried to steal $340,000. He threatened a pregnant woman. He embezzled from his own company. I'm not doing anything to him. He did this to himself. She hung up crying. I felt a twinge of guilt, then remembered the recording of my husband threatening Natalie. The guilt vanished. 2 weeks later, the divorce proceeded rapidly. With criminal charges pending, my husband's lawyer advised him to accept a settlement rather than fight. I got the house, my car, and half of what remained of his legitimate assets after restitution was paid to the company. The offshore account was frozen and would be returned once the investigation concluded. Natalie filed her civil suit. She was asking for $500,000 in damages. Given the recording and police report, her lawyer was confident of winning. Are you okay with this? She asked me over coffee. Him losing everything? I'm more than okay with it, I assured her. He earned every bit of it. She smiled. I got my MBA to prove I was smart enough to stand on my own. Then I let a man make me forget that. Never again. We clinked our coffee cups together. An odd toast to futures we'd have to build from wreckage. My husband pled guilty to the forgery and fraud charges in exchange for a reduced sentence. 18 months in a minimum security facility, 5 years probation, and full restitution to both his company and me. At the sentencing hearing, the judge addressed him directly. You held positions of trust in multiple capacities. As a husband, as an employer, as a business partner. You violated every single one of those trusts for personal gain. You threatened a vulnerable woman. You stole from your wife. You defrauded your company. These aren't mistakes. This is a pattern of predatory behavior. My husband stood there, shoulders slumped, looking nothing like the confident man I'd married. I felt nothing watching him. No satisfaction, no anger, just a vast emptiness where love used to be. After the hearing, I walked out into the sunshine. Natalie was waiting by my car. It's really over, she said. He's going away, you're free, and I can raise my baby without fear. How does it feel? Strange, I admitted. I thought I'd feel triumphant. Instead, I just feel tired. She nodded. I feel the same way. Like I ran a marathon I never signed up for. We stood there for a moment, two women connected by one man's betrayal. Want to get lunch? She asked. Somewhere nice? My treat. I smiled. Actually, yes, I do. We drove to a restaurant downtown, the kind of place my husband would never take me because he claimed it was too expensive. We ordered wine and expensive entrees and dessert. Halfway through the meal, Natalie started laughing. What? I asked. She gestured around the restaurant. He took me here once, told me it was where he brought important clients. Now we're here together, celebrating his downfall. The irony is beautiful. I raised my glass. To new beginnings, and to men facing consequences. She clinked her glass against mine. To women who don't stay silent anymore. The wine was excellent, the food even better. For the first time in months, I felt something like hope. 3 months later, I started working at my father's company. He'd offered me a position in property management, something I'd been interested in before marriage derailed my career plans. I threw myself into learning the business, working long hours, rebuilding my confidence. My mother worried I was avoiding processing the trauma. Maybe I was. But work felt safer than sitting with my emotions. Natalie had her baby in May, a healthy girl she named Iris. She sent me a photo from the hospital, her exhausted face glowing with joy. Thank you for everything, she texted. You saved both our lives. I visited her a week later, bringing gifts and food. The baby was tiny and perfect, sleeping peacefully while we talked. How does it feel? I asked. Terrifying and wonderful, she said. I'm doing this alone, but I'm not scared anymore. I know I can handle it. She'd accepted a job with my father's company too, working remotely so she could stay home with Iris. Your dad is a good man, she told me. He didn't have to give me a chance considering everything. But he called me personally and said any woman strong enough to stand up to his son-in-law's threats deserved a shot. That night, I went home to my house. The house I'd shared with my husband, which was now just mine. I'd redecorated, removing every trace of him. New furniture, new paint, new everything. It felt like a fresh start. I poured a glass of wine and sat on my new couch looking at the photo Natalie had sent. Iris had a tuft of dark hair and seemed to be smiling in her sleep. She'd never know her father, and maybe that was for the best. Some people didn't deserve the title of parent. My phone buzzed with a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Elena? It was my husband's voice, thin and desperate. Please don't hang up. I should have, but curiosity won. What do you want? I asked. I'm calling from prison, he said unnecessarily. I wanted to apologize. For everything. For lying. For cheating. For trying to steal from you. For threatening Natalie. I was wrong about everything. A little late for apologies, I said. But thank you, I guess. There was a pause. I heard you're working at your father's company now. That's good. You always wanted to do something in real estate. Don't, I warned. Don't pretend you know what I wanted. You never cared about that. You're right, he admitted. I didn't care about a lot of things I should have. I took you for granted. I thought your family's money meant I could do whatever I wanted without consequences. I was wrong. Is there a point to this call? I asked. Or are you just looking for absolution? Because I'm not the one who can give you that. I know, he said quietly. I just wanted you to know that I understand now. What I lost. Who you are. What we could have been if I hadn't ruined it. We were never going to be anything, I said. Because you were never who I thought you were. The person I married didn't exist. You showed me that. I hung up and blocked that number too. Then I called my therapist and scheduled an appointment. Dr. Morrison was right. I was grieving and I needed to do it properly. Over the next year, I rebuilt my life piece by piece. I got promoted twice at work. I bought a new car with my own money. I traveled to places I'd always wanted to see, but my husband had dismissed as boring. Natalie and I became genuine friends, bonding over our shared experience. We'd meet for coffee every few weeks, and I'd bring gifts for Iris. Watching that baby grow felt like witnessing hope in its purest form, a life starting fresh, unburdened by her father's mistakes. On the anniversary of the day Natalie showed up at my door, I took myself out to dinner. The same restaurant where we'd celebrated my husband's sentencing. I ordered wine and the most expensive item on the menu. A man at the bar kept looking over, clearly interested. For the first time in months, I smiled back. Not because I was ready to date, but because I could. Because I was free to make my own choices without fear or control. My phone buzzed with a text from Natalie. Happy escape day. That's what we called it now. The day we both escaped. I texted back, to many more years of freedom. She sent a photo of Iris, now a toddler with bright eyes and a mischievous smile. She's asking about you. When can you visit? This weekend? I replied. Saturday afternoon. I'll bring cookies. Perfect. As I finished my meal and paid the bill, I caught my reflection in the restaurant window. I looked different than I had a year ago. Stronger. More myself. The woman my husband had tried to control was gone. In her place stood someone who knew her worth, who wouldn't settle for lies or manipulation ever again. My father called as I was driving home. Just wanted to check in, he said. How are you doing? Good, I said. Really good, actually. I'm proud of you, sweetheart. You handled this whole situation with grace and strength. Your mother and I are both proud. Thanks, Dad. And thank you for giving Natalie a job. She needed someone to believe in her. She's an asset to the company, he said. Smart, hardworking, dedicated. Reminds me of you, actually. We talked for a few more minutes before hanging up. As I pulled into my driveway, I noticed the house lights glowing warm and welcoming. This was mine. All mine. I'd earned it. Fought for it. Claimed it back from someone who'd tried to take everything. Inside, I poured another glass of wine and opened my laptop. I'd been thinking about writing down my story. Not for publication, but for myself. To process everything that had happened. To document the journey from betrayal to freedom. I started typing. Beginning with that morning, Natalie appeared at my door. The words flowed easily. Surprisingly so. Writing it all out felt cathartic, like releasing poison from a wound. I wrote about the shock, the anger, the fear. About facing down my husband in court. About listening to his pathetic apologies. About choosing myself over the comfortable lie our marriage had been. Hours passed. When I finally stopped, dawn was breaking outside my windows. I'd written nearly 20,000 words, purging everything I'd been holding inside. The next morning, I called Dr. Morrison. I think I'm ready to close this chapter, I told her. Ready to stop defining myself by what he did to me. That's wonderful progress, she said warmly. But remember, healing isn't linear. You'll have good days and hard days. The key is not letting the hard days convince you you're back at the start. We scheduled a final appointment. A closing session to mark this transition. Saturday afternoon, I drove to Natalie's apartment with a box of homemade cookies. She opened the door with Iris on her hip. The toddler reached for me immediately. Lena, she squealed, her version of my name. I took her, breathing in that sweet baby smell. How's she doing? I asked. Thriving, Natalie said proudly. She's starting preschool in the fall. I still can't believe I'm doing this. Raising her alone, but it's better than the alternative. We sat in her living room while Iris played with blocks. Any word from him? She asked carefully. He called once from prison. I hung up and blocked the number. Good, she said firmly. He doesn't deserve access to either of us. Have you thought about what you'll tell Iris when she's older? When she asks about her father? Natalie nodded. I'll tell her the truth, that he was someone who made very bad choices, that he hurt people, and that we're better off without him. I won't lie to her or make him into a villain. Just state the facts and let her draw her own conclusions. That seems wise, I agreed. Iris toddled over and handed me a block. Pay, she demanded. We played together while Natalie made tea. This little family we'd accidentally formed from the wreckage of one man's selfishness. Later that evening, I attended a networking event for my father's company. I'd been avoiding these for months, not ready to face the gossip and questions, but I was done hiding. I walked in with my head high, wearing a new dress that made me feel powerful. Several colleagues approached immediately. Elena, so glad to see you out. How are you holding up? I'm doing well, I said simply. Moving forward. That's all anyone can do, right? The evening passed surprisingly smoothly. People were kind, respectful, not pressing for details. As I was leaving, a woman I didn't know approached. I'm sorry, I have to tell you, she said. What you did? Standing up to your husband like that? It inspired me. I left my own terrible situation because I saw your courage. Can I buy you coffee sometime? We exchanged numbers, and I drove home feeling lighter. My story was helping others. That made everything worthwhile. The trial, the humiliation, the fear, all of it had purpose beyond just my own healing. 2 months later, I got a call from Victor. Elena, I have news. The offshore account has been fully recovered. After legal fees and the bank's charges, there's $318,000 remaining. It's yours. Combined with the settlement money and my salary from my father's company, I was financially secure. More than secure, actually. Comfortable. Independent. Everything my husband had tried to take from me, I'd gotten back tenfold. That weekend, I took my mother to lunch at our favorite cafe. She studied me across the table. You look different, she said. Lighter somehow. I feel different, I admitted. Like I finally figured out who I am without him defining me. She reached across and squeezed my hand. You were always this person. Strong, capable, fierce. He just made you forget for a while. But you remembered. That's what matters. We talked about my career, about Natalie and Iris, about my plans for the future. For the first time, those plans didn't include a man, didn't revolve around making someone else happy. They were just mine. 6 months later, my husband was released from prison. I heard through my father that he'd moved to another state, was working a low-level job, trying to rebuild his life. His parents had disowned him after the full extent of his crimes became public. He was truly alone now, facing consequences he'd never imagined. I felt nothing hearing this news. Not satisfaction, not pity, just a distant sense that justice had been served. Natalie called me that same week. He tried to contact me, she said, voice tight with anxiety, through a friend of a friend. Asking to meet Iris. What did you say? I asked. I said absolutely not. My lawyer sent him a cease and desist. If he tries again, we're filing for a permanent restraining order. Good, I said firmly. He gave up any right to that child when he threatened her. Natalie exhaled slowly. Thank you for backing me up, for being in our corner. I know this is weird, our friendship. Most people wouldn't understand it. I don't care what most people understand, I said. You and Iris are family to me now. That's all that matters. She was quiet for a moment. Family, she repeated. Yeah, we are. That Christmas, Natalie, Iris, and I spent the holiday together at my parents' estate. My mother had insisted, saying no child should be without extended family during the holidays. Watching Iris open presents, seeing her delighted face, I felt my heart swell with unexpected love. This strange little family we'd created was real and good and worth protecting. My father pulled me aside later. You've turned something terrible into something beautiful, he said. I'm proud of the woman you've become, not because of what you survived, but because of how you chose to survive it, with grace and strength and kindness. That's rare. As the new year approached, I made a resolution. Not to forget what happened. That was impossible. But to stop letting it define me. I was more than my ex-husband's betrayal. I was Elena, daughter, friend, professional, survivor. I was whole on my own. 1 year became 2, then 3. I got another promotion, became a department head. Natalie rose through the ranks too, proving herself indispensable. Iris started kindergarten, a bright and curious child who knew nothing of her father's crimes. Sometimes late at night, I'd think about that morning Natalie appeared at my door, how my entire world had shattered in seconds, how I'd felt lost and broken and afraid, but I'd rebuilt. Slowly, painfully, but completely. I'd become someone stronger than before, someone who knew her worth and wouldn't compromise it for anyone. That was the real victory, not the money or the house or even the justice. It was reclaiming myself. On the 5-year anniversary of my divorce being finalized, I treated myself to a weekend at a luxury spa. Alone, by choice, gloriously alone. As I sat in the steam room, muscles relaxing, mind quiet, I smiled. I'd made it through, not just survived, but thrived. And that was enough. More than enough. It was everything. During that spa weekend, I found myself thinking about the woman at the networking event, the one who'd said my story inspired her to leave. I wondered how many others there were, how many women were trapped in situations like mine had been, not knowing they had the strength to walk away. When I returned home, I started volunteering at a women's shelter, just a few hours a week, talking to women who were considering leaving abusive relationships. I shared my story, the parts I was comfortable sharing, the fear, the uncertainty, the eventual freedom. One woman, Angela, grabbed my hand after a session. You made it real for me, she said, that there's life after leaving, that it's possible to be happy again. That became my mission, not to forget what happened, but to use it, to help others find their way out of darkness. Natalie joined me after a few months, bringing Iris along when we volunteered at family events. We'd watch children play together while their mothers attended support groups, planning futures they'd never thought possible. Your daughter is lucky, one woman told Natalie. She'll grow up knowing her mother chose safety over staying. That's powerful. Natalie smiled. We're all lucky. Elena showed me that leaving doesn't make you weak. It makes you brave. I felt my eyes water. We showed each other, I corrected. Neither of us could have done this alone. My brother called one afternoon, someone I hadn't mentioned much because we'd been distant for years. He'd heard about the divorce through family channels, but we'd never discussed it directly. Elena, I need to apologize, he said. For what? I asked, genuinely confused. For not being there. When everything happened with your husband, Mom and Dad told me bits and pieces, but I never reached out. I was dealing with my own stuff and I let you down. You didn't let me down, I said gently. We haven't been close in years. That's on both of us. I know, he said, but I want to change that. Can I take you to dinner? We met the following week at a quiet Italian place. Over pasta and wine, he told me about his own struggles with his marriage, his job, his life feeling stuck. Hearing about your situation, how you handled it, he said. It made me realize I've been making excuses. You didn't just survive, you fought back. You took control. That takes guts I'm not sure I have. You have them, I assured him. Everyone does. They just don't know it until they're forced to use them. We talked for hours, rebuilding a relationship that had fractured years ago over something neither of us could even remember. Before we left, he hugged me tight. I'm proud of you, little sister. I know I don't say it enough, but I am. That meant more than I expected. Family approval, family support. It mattered even when I thought I'd moved past needing it. A few months later, I met someone. His name was Bennett, and he was nothing like my ex-husband. He was quiet where my ex had been loud, thoughtful where my ex had been impulsive. We met at a charity event my company was sponsoring. He worked in nonprofit management, dedicating his career to helping underserved communities. Our first date was coffee that turned into a 3-hour conversation. He listened when I talked, asked questions, seemed genuinely interested in my answers. When I told him I was divorced, he didn't press for details, just nodded and said, "We all have pasts. What matters is who we choose to be now." On our third date, I told him the whole story. The affair, the threats, the criminal charges. I watched his face carefully, waiting for judgment or pity. Instead, he reached across the table and took my hand. "Thank you for trusting me with that," he said. "It explains a lot about your strength. You're remarkable, Elena." I felt my walls crack just slightly. "I'm not ready for anything serious," I warned him. "I need to be sure you understand that." "I'm not trying to rush you," he said. "I'm just glad to know you." We took things slowly, painfully, wonderfully slowly. He never pushed, never demanded more than I was ready to give. 6 months in, he met Natalie and Iris. The four of us went to the zoo together, a strange double date that somehow worked perfectly. Iris adored Bennett, climbing on him like a jungle gym. "He's good with her," Natalie observed as we watched them at the penguin exhibit. "That's rare. Do you trust him?" I asked. She thought about it. "Yeah," she said. "I do. My instincts about men have been terrible, but there's something genuine about him. He looks at you like you're the only person in the room, but not in a possessive way. In a you make the room better way. That felt right. Bennett never tried to control me or change me. He celebrated my independence, encouraged my work at the shelter, supported my career ambitions. A year into our relationship, he asked me to move in with him. I panicked. Not because I didn't want to, but because the thought of combining my life with someone else's again terrified me. He noticed my hesitation immediately. "Too soon?" he asked gently. "I'm sorry," I pushed. "Maybe," I admitted. "Or maybe I'm just scared." He pulled me close. "Elena, I love you, but I don't need you to live with me to know that. We can keep going exactly as we are for as long as you need. There's no timeline here." That's when I knew. This was different. This was real. Still, I made him wait another 6 months before I was ready. When I finally moved my things into his place, Natalie helped me pack. "This is good," she said, taping up a box. "You deserve this. You deserve happiness." "So do you," I reminded her. "Have you thought about dating?" She laughed. "With a toddler? Who has time? Besides, I'm happy. Genuinely happy. I have Iris. I have my career. I have you and your family. That's more than enough for now. Maybe someday, but not yet." I understood that completely. Healing had its own timeline, and rushing it helped no one. Bennett's place became our place slowly. He made room for my things without complaint, adjusted his routines to fit mine. We learned each other's quirks, our pet peeves, our love languages. He was patient with my nightmares. The occasional panic attack when something triggered memories of my ex-husband. He'd hold me and remind me I was safe, that I was loved, that the past couldn't hurt me anymore. 2 years after we started dating, Bennett proposed. Not with a grand gesture or public spectacle. Just the two of us, hiking in the mountains, watching the sunset paint the sky purple and gold. He got down on one knee and said, "Elena, you're the bravest person I know. You've built a life from ashes, helped countless women find their strength, and somehow still found room in your heart for me. I don't need marriage to be happy with you, but I'd be honored if you'd be my wife." I cried. Not sad tears, but overwhelming joy. "Yes," I said. "Yes, absolutely yes." We were married 6 months later in a small ceremony at my parents' estate. Natalie was my maid of honor, Iris the flower girl. My father walked me down the aisle with tears in his eyes. My mother sobbed through the entire ceremony. My brother gave a toast about second chances and new beginnings. During the reception, I found myself standing alone for a moment, watching everyone dance and laugh. Natalie appeared beside me with 2 glasses of champagne. "To us," she said, "to surviving, to thriving, to building families from broken pieces." I clinked my glass against hers. "To women who refuse to stay silent, to justice, to love that doesn't hurt." We drank, and I felt complete. Not because I'd gotten married again, but because I'd reclaimed every piece of myself that had been stolen. I was whole. I was free. I was exactly who I was meant to be. That night, Bennett and I drove to a hotel for our wedding night. As we lay in bed together, he traced patterns on my shoulder. "I'm so glad you said yes," he murmured. "I'm glad you asked," I replied. "And I'm glad you waited until I was ready. That's what love does," he said. "It waits." The next morning, we left for our honeymoon in Greece. 2 weeks of sun and sea and forgetting the world existed. On a beach in Santorini, I got a text from Natalie. "Iris misses you. We miss you. But I'm so happy for you, Elena. You've come so far." I sent back a photo of the sunset over the Aegean. "Miss you both too. Back soon." That trip was healing in ways I hadn't expected. Being far from home, from memories, from everything that had happened, I could just be. Just exist as Elena. Not Elena who survived betrayal. Just Elena who loved swimming in clear blue water and eating fresh seafood and laughing with her husband. When we returned, I went back to work refreshed. My father had promoted me again, this time to VP of Acquisitions. I was making decisions that affected millions of dollars, managing teams, proving that my worth had never been tied to my ex-husband's perception of me. One afternoon, I got an unexpected call. It was my ex-husband's sister, Teresa, someone I'd barely known during the marriage. "Elena, I know you probably don't want to hear from anyone in our family," she started, "but I needed to tell you something." "I'm listening," I said cautiously. "I'm getting divorced too," she said. "My husband has been cheating for years. I found out 6 months ago and I've been trying to work through it, but I can't. And watching how you handled everything with my brother, how you stood up for yourself, it gave me courage. I'm filing next week. I felt my chest tighten. Teresa, I'm so sorry you're going through this. If you need anything, advice, support, anything at all, please call me. We're not enemies. She started crying. Thank you. Everyone in my family thinks I'm being dramatic. But you understand. You know what this feels like. I gave her Victor's number and the information for the women's shelter. She thanked me profusely and hung up. I sat at my desk for a long time processing that conversation. My story had ripple effects I never anticipated. It was empowering other women, showing them that leaving was possible, that survival wasn't just possible, but probable. That evening, I told Bennett about the call. He listened quietly, then said, "You've become more than a survivor, Elena. You've become a guide for others. That's powerful. Do you ever regret it? How public everything became?" I thought about it. "No," I said finally. "I regret trusting the wrong person, but I don't regret fighting back. Every consequence he faced, he earned. And if my story helps even one woman find her courage, then the humiliation was worth it." 4 years into our marriage, Bennett and I started talking about children. I was nervous. The idea of bringing a child into the world, of being that vulnerable again, terrified me. But Bennett was patient, as always. "We don't have to," he said. "We can be happy just us." "I know," I replied, "but I think I want to try." We tried for a year before I got pregnant. When I saw those 2 lines on the test, I felt equal parts terror and joy. I called Natalie immediately. "I'm pregnant," I blurted out. She screamed so loud I had to pull the phone away from my ear. "Elena, that's incredible. How do you feel?" "Scared," I admitted. "Excited. Terrified. All of it at once." She laughed. "That's exactly how I felt. But you're going to be an amazing mother. You've already been an amazing aunt to Iris." The pregnancy was complicated. I had morning sickness that lasted all day, every day for 5 months. My body ached. I was exhausted. But Bennett was there through all of it, holding my hair back when I vomited, rubbing my feet, talking to my growing belly. Our daughter was born on a Tuesday morning in October. 7 pounds, 3 ounces. Perfect in every way. We named her Claire, after my grandmother who'd passed when I was young. Holding her for the first time, I understood why Natalie had fought so hard to keep Iris safe. This tiny human was everything. Absolutely everything. Natalie visited us in the hospital with Iris. The 6-year-old stared at baby Claire with wonder. "She's so small," Iris whispered. "Can I hold her?" We helped her hold the baby carefully. Iris looked up at me with serious eyes. "I'll protect her. Like you protected my mama and me." I felt tears stream down my face. "Yes, sweetheart. We all protect each other now. That's what family does." Motherhood changed me in unexpected ways. I'd thought I understood love, understood sacrifice, but this was different. This was a love so consuming it rewrote my DNA. Every decision I made was filtered through the question, what kind of world am I building for Claire? I went back to work after 3 months but scaled back my hours. My father understood completely. "Family first," he said. Always. I divided my time between work, volunteering at the shelter, and being present for Claire's every milestone. Her first smile, her first laugh, her first steps. Bennett and I documented everything, building a life that was rich and full and real. When Claire was 2, Natalie got engaged to a man named Felix who worked as a social worker. He was kind and gentle and adored both her and Iris. At their wedding, I stood beside Natalie again, this time as her matron of honor. Iris and Claire were flower girls together, holding hands as they scattered petals. "This is perfect," Natalie whispered before walking down the aisle. "This is the life we fought for. We did it. We really did it." "Yes," I said. "We did." The years that followed were quiet and good. No drama, no crises, just life unfolding in beautiful, ordinary ways. Claire started preschool. Iris excelled in elementary school. Bennett got promoted at his nonprofit. I eventually became COO of my father's company. Natalie and Felix had a son they named Theo. Our families blended seamlessly, celebrating holidays together, taking vacations, building memories. Sometimes I'd see a news story about someone in a situation like mine had been, a woman trapped, a woman suffering, and I'd think about reaching out, about sharing my story, about offering help. Most times I did. I'd send an email or make a call, connecting them with resources, with lawyers, with support systems. "You don't know me," I'd say, "but I've been where you are. And I'm here to tell you there's a way out. There's life after this." Many thanked me. Some never responded. A few became friends, women who joined our circle of survivors, who added their strength to ours. On the 10th anniversary of the day Natalie showed up at my door, we threw a party. Not to celebrate my ex-husband's downfall, but to celebrate us. Our survival, our growth, our families. We invited everyone who'd been part of the journey. Victor the lawyer, Dr. Morrison, my parents, my brother, Teresa, who'd gotten divorced and rebuilt her life too. We stood in my backyard, surrounded by people who loved us, and I gave a toast. 10 years ago, my world fell apart, I said. I thought I'd lost everything, but really, I'd lost nothing but dead weight. In its place, I gained clarity, strength, true family, real love. I gained all of you. Natalie raised her glass. To Elena, who taught me that the end can be a beginning. To Natalie, I countered, who showed me that courage looks like asking for help. Bennett wrapped his arm around me. To second chances, he said. To building something real from broken pieces. We drank and celebrated into the night. Claire and Iris and Theo played together, these children who existed because we'd been brave enough to walk away from men who didn't deserve us. As the party wound down and guests left, Natalie and I found ourselves alone on the porch swing. Can you believe it? She asked. 10 years. A decade of freedom. I shook my head. Sometimes it feels like yesterday. Other times it feels like a lifetime ago, like it happened to someone else. She leaned her head on my shoulder. We were so young, so scared. But we made it. We made it, I agreed. And we're still making it. Every single day. The swing creaked gently as we rocked. Above us, stars filled the sky. Inside, I could hear Bennett reading Claire a bedtime story, his voice soft and loving. This was my life now. Not the one I'd planned, but something better. Something earned. Something real. My ex-husband existed somewhere in the world, I supposed. But he was irrelevant. A cautionary tale. A lesson learned. He had no power over me anymore. No space in my thoughts unless I chose to give it. And I chose not to. Natalie stood, stretching. I should go. Felix is probably drowning in bedtime chaos with 2 kids. I walked her to her car, hugging her tight. Thank you, I said, for everything, for being brave enough to tell me the truth, for standing with me, for becoming family. She pulled back, eyes wet. Thank you for not hating me, for seeing me as human, for giving me and Iris a real chance at life. We'll never have to thank each other for that again, I said. It's just understood. She drove away, and I stood in my driveway, breathing in the cool night air. Bennett appeared beside me, Claire sleeping on his shoulder. Ready for bed? He asked. Almost, I said. Just needed a minute. He waited patiently, understanding without needing explanation. That was love, real love, the kind that didn't demand or control or manipulate, the kind that just was. We walked inside together, tucking Claire into her bed, kissing her soft forehead. Bennett and I fell into our own bed, exhausted but content. He pulled me close. I love you, Elena. I love you too, I whispered back, more than I ever thought possible. Sleep found me quickly, peaceful and dreamless. Tomorrow would come with its own challenges and joys, but tonight I was exactly where I belonged, safe, loved, whole, free.